Our story begins with a man feeling unwell in the middle of the street. In pain, he clutched his stomach and fell to his knees, then started coughing up blood. People looked at him in astonishment, unable to understand what was happening to him. A couple approached him to ask what had happened, and then the man's face changed, clearly showing veins and blood near his mouth. As soon as the guy approached the man, he immediately attacked him and started devouring him. People started receiving notifications on their phones about an emergency disaster. Everyone around began running away from the zombies, because behind them was a horde of the undead. Upon reaching the shelter, people saw a very tall wall made of containers in front of them. The shelter was located in the middle of Busan, and was nicknamed the Second Blockade. But there was one problem. It was impossible to fit all the people behind that wall. Zombies tried to climb over this wall, piling on top of each other, creating a mound of the dead. Near the sea, on the shore at Hueni Camp, people became furious and started fighting each other for supplies. They stole from their neighbors and claimed stolen goods for themselves. Adult men could even hit a child and take something from them. Suddenly, one of them was struck on the head with a baton. Across from the tent stood people with armored shields. The mask of this defender was covered in blood. He lifted his head and told the person he had struck to behave properly. He gave orders to the other soldiers to calm down all the violators. The soldiers acted quickly. They eliminated those who were behaving horribly. There were huge crowds of people at the auction, money flying around. It turned out that house prices had skyrocketed several times over. But the number of these houses had decreased by 47,000. Even monthly rent had become 30 times more expensive. Those who didn't have their own homes were not thrown outside the wall. They stayed inside the walls but slept on the streets, suffering and freezing from cold and hunger. They showed us the main hero, who was also homeless. He stood there, warming his hands by a barrel, with tents and sleeping people on the sand nearby. His name was Cheo-soo Kim. He was 23 years old, and Kim was also unemployed. In the morning, during the day, and in the evening, Kim worked at the construction site 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. At the end of the month, he earned 450 million won. In order to save 395 billion won, receiving only 450 million won per month, our hero couldn't spend a single penny. He had a total of 731 million won. The hero looked at the fire and pondered. He realized that with the current prices, he wouldn't be able to buy even the cheapest house. Kim sighed, put on his sweater, and then looked at a huge billboard. The advertisement had the text, "Win a massive villa." The show began to be broadcasted. The host asked the participants questions, whether they were hungry, tired of being homeless, or trying to escape from zombies. He explained the contest rules. Everyone who participated had to destroy a lot of zombies because the more, the better. For each zombie head destroyed, they would be awarded 500 million won. After eliminating them, they just needed to bring a head as proof. Many people, including our hero, came to the station. He approached the registration desk. The girl extended her hand and asked Kim to pay for participating in the show. The hero handed her an envelope, and after some time, the girl counted 120 million won. She handed Kim a ticket for the train heading to the special operation. In the hero's backpack were shovels he had stolen from his previous job. That was his weapon. There were many participants at the station. They were all waiting for a specific train. Our hero accidentally bumped into a girl. She fell, and arrows fell out of her backpack. The girl was in pain. She got up and apologized. Suddenly, a man came out of the crowd, approached her, and took her arrows. The girl immediately told him not to touch her arrows. But he didn't listen to her. He humiliated the girl, saying that she wouldn't be able to eliminate zombies using such old arrows. The girl stood up and wanted to forcefully take the arrows, but the man wouldn't let her do that. Suddenly, someone grabbed her by the hair while the girl was in hysterics. Another man approached her and said that the zombies would die of laughter rather than her arrows. He advised her to take everything with her and leave. Suddenly, our hero grabbed the robber's hand. The man didn't understand who it was. He threatened Kim and told him to let go of his hand. After those words, he immediately released his hand, and then he delivered a devastating blow to the offender. Kim said that people who targeted other people, not zombies, always irritated him. He always wanted to eliminate such people. The girl looked at him perplexed. Then she stood up and thanked Kim. But it turned out that our hero wanted to find long-range weapons because he couldn't afford to buy them as they were too expensive. Upon hearing these words, the girl was shocked. The man holding the girl's arrows began to fear the hero. The station attendant asked the others to be quieter and make less noise. But after those words, His comrade told him to stop watching him, as he was afraid they might send them on a special operation too. Meanwhile, the necessary train had already arrived, and the hero and the girl got on the carriage. The train gave its final signal and started moving. Late at night, they arrived at the contaminated Zone 17, at Pohang Station. The carriage with the arrivals opened immediately, and then the participants noticed that there wasn't a single zombie around. They were surprised by this. There weren't even any soldiers. People didn't know what to do. Meanwhile, the girl was trying to take her crossbow from Kim. Suddenly, they heard someone speaking on a gramophone. People were slightly surprised by this. The voice thanked everyone for their good work. The government concluded that they needed to get rid of a part of the population in order for everyone to have enough food and shelter. After those words, a horrible sound came through the speakers. It had a negative effect on people, and they had to cover their ears to avoid hearing that screech. One man couldn't understand what was happening, and then he saw a horde of zombies running straight towards them. People banged on the driver's cabin, asking him to turn off that sound. But then they saw something terrible. The arrivals saw the train driver uncoupling their carriage. The man asked to stop, but the train had already left. As he was running, he stumbled and fell to the ground. Then he was attacked and killed by zombies. Those who had left the carriage tried to get back in, but people wouldn't let them. They pushed them away with their feet. In the end, only the girl and Kim remained alive. Our hero handed her the crossbow and said that she could rent it. The rental fee was 10 won per second, but she said it was her weapon, and after those words, he raised the amount to 7,900 won per second. The girl was shocked. When the hero stepped off the carriage, all the zombies immediately turned their attention to him. He was determined. The zombies started attacking Kim. With a single swing of a shovel, he decapitated the undead. The remaining zombies immediately started attacking the hero. He angrily destroyed them one by one. After some time, Kim lay near the carriage, and above him was the girl with the crossbow. The hero opened his eyes, took the shovel. He stood up and continued fighting. Until dawn, he eliminated the zombies. The girl jumped off the carriage, and saw Kim sitting on a pile of corpses. The girl was amazed and realized that our hero had killed all the zombies. Hearing her voice, Kim immediately told her to be quiet and help gather their heads. He was covered in blood. The girl asked the hero why money was so important to him. He said that he wanted to buy a house with a huge yard. The cameras captured everything that was happening. The Ministry of Defense observed the hero on the monitors. They were amazed that Kim single-handedly, and with a shovel, had eliminated 8,000 zombies. In the Pusan quarantine zone, a military man watched everything from a tower. He looked through binoculars and saw something. He immediately called his comrade, San Byung-kim. He woke up and didn't understand why the other was shouting. The comrade said he saw around 12 zombies. He stood up and couldn't believe his ears. He asked again how many there were, to which his comrade said that now there were 3, and he settled on the number 2. Byung-kim slapped him and said that he didn't see any zombies. He thought that his comrade was still not fully awake. But then he took the binoculars himself, and then he asked if zombies can carry bags. He thought they were infected people for sure. Byung-kim ordered his comrade to contact the platoon commander and ask for permission to use live ammunition, but then he changed his mind. It turned out that it was our hero and the girl with the crossbow. She waved her hands and shouted that they were human. Kim's clothes were covered in blood, and he was carrying bags. The girl shouted at the soldiers not to shoot. In the reception room of the Ministry of Defense, the guys came to present evidence. Our hero sat opposite the manager, and they started talking. The manager asked if he had single-handedly destroyed 8,021 zombies. Then he set aside all the paperwork, and placed a briefcase with money on the table. They opened the case, and inside were 401,500 billion won. The manager handed him the money, and told him to maintain confidentiality, and not tell anyone where Kim got the money from. The assistant gave the hero a paper and told him to sign it. The second assistant asked the men if it was really worth giving such a large sum of money to him. To this, the manager replied that they wouldn't incur a big loss if they gave him that amount. The hero revealed the contents of the bags. Inside were zombie noses. The assistant asked what to do with them, and the manager said to throw them away. They had enough evidence that Kim had indeed destroyed so many zombies. Kim left a bloody fingerprint on the paper, which pleased the manager greatly. He had some kind of plan. Kim and the girl left the building with 4 cases of money. The girl asked where our hero wanted to go now. He placed the suitcases down, and then took out a stack of money from them. He gave her 3 trillion won for her help. Kim told her not to follow him, and then he turned around and walked away, leaving the girl behind. She called after him, asking him to invite her to live with him if he bought a big house. After some time, Kim bought a house with a small yard. It was not far from Sosindoo in Busan. He and the seller arrived at the house. The old man showed him his new home and said that it was now Kim's house. The hero pulled the gate's handle and walked through the yard. He entered his new home. But before he could take a few steps, he stepped on a needle. Our hero got pricked and saw black spots on his leg. The whole needle was stained with black blood. And then Kim remembered that the black blood was also flowing from the zombies, and how the manager said that this blood was too dangerous for humans. And then the hero realized what had happened. Instead of normal blood, black blood was flowing through his veins, and gradually, he began to transform into something. Meanwhile, the manager arrived at his house. He got out of the car with a megaphone, surrounded by police and his assistants. The chief spoke through the loudspeaker, telling Kim to come out of the house with his hands raised, if he wasn't infected yet. The chief's assistant approached him and asked if all of this was the right thing to do, since they could have simply not given him the money. After all, now they had lost someone who could have killed all the zombies, and the authorities had added problems to themselves. The manager said that they better do it this way because there was a chance that the slashers could find the survivors of their experiment first. The special forces were already lined up in front of the house. They were waiting for instructions. The chief gave the command to enter the house. The special forces immediately started to carry out the order. And suddenly, our hero came out of the house. He didn't look like a zombie. He was still a human. The chief saw that the infection had already begun. He was glad about it. Our hero, with tears in his eyes, cried out that he just wanted to buy himself a house. He wanted his family to live happily. After these words, he lunged at the special forces. He was filled with anger and despair. In the residential complex of Aqua City, the girl was taking a bath. Then she heard that a client had come to see her. She asked her assistant to escort the client and make them wait. The client was already sitting in the hall, waiting for June. It turned out to be the same woman who was with Kim before. She apologized for the wait and sat in the chair. June was the CEO of a certain company. The man's name is Jang, and he had heard about a company that could help him find things. June said that their company had people who specialized in infected zones, and they could help him. June's company cleans up zombie-infested areas and restores them for habitable living. Her company specialized in everything. They also manage slashers who catch zombies and search for items. Meanwhile, John was given a book with their service prices. He was shocked by the enormous amounts. June said that they could vary depending on the size or location of the item they needed to find. The man said he only had 100 million won on hand. That amount didn't satisfy June, and she asked her secretary to kick him out because he was poor. But as soon as John heard that, he said he could offer 500 million won if possible. He talked about how he bought several bitcoins on the exchange before the apocalypse. All other currencies crashed, but Bitcoin was still valuable. Jang said he could pay with them. June was pleased to hear that, and now she agreed to help. Jang asked if there was anyone cheaper than the slashers, and the girl said she could offer a newcomer. June gave Jang a business card with the contact information, and he happily left her apartment. Her secretary asked where she met him, and one of the possibilities was the same special operation. June said it was there. Then she asked Park if she wanted to come with her to the housewarming party. Kim ran into the crowd of special forces. He lunged at one of them. Everyone around was shocked by this. The man started fending off Kim with a baton. After the strike, our hero realized that he was infected. Without hesitation, he bit the police officer. The man screamed in pain. Amid his screams, the others just stood and watched. Then they regained their composure and started helping their comrade. The squad rushed at them and began to remove the infected one. They somehow managed to get him off. Then they threw him back into the yard. The man lay writhing in pain. Apparently, he also started turning into a zombie. After all this, Kim Moon-sik, through a loudspeaker, ordered the others to take off the infected one's head. Meanwhile, Kim lay motionless in the yard. He had 3 minutes left before the end of the infection. But despite Moon-sik's orders, the squad stood still and watched the hero lying in the yard. Seeing this, the chief said that there were many of them and only one of him. But after the remark, "Do you want to earn money?" they became uneasy. Our hero started getting up. He said that no one could take away or deprive him of his home. And after these words, the special forces started to act. They rushed in as a group and began attacking the hero. But even on the brink of infection, he didn't give up and then destroyed or turned the police officers into zombies. His entire yard was in ruins, and the heroes sat motionless in a crouch. The police officers were eating each other, and the majority of them had already been turned into the undead. Terrified, Moon-Sick leaned his back against the car. He was horrified by what had happened. He witnessed his assistant being devoured too. He begged to be saved, but Moon-Sick didn't even flinch. His comrade perished. The chief couldn't understand why it happened. He was just an ordinary guy. How could he wipe out the entire squad? His thoughts were interrupted by someone standing on the car roof. It was a guy in an orange uniform, holding a tall case in his hands. He began to open the case, and then he took out his weapon. It was a Class B slasher, Ha-San-Su. He had destroyed over 78,000 zombies. Moon-Sick recognized the lad and pleaded to be saved. Then a girl approached him. She had a crossbow on her back. She hinted that Moon-Sick was also a zombie. After that, San-Su turned on the chainsaw and beheaded Moon-Sick. The remaining zombie police officers heard the noise and noticed what was happening. They swiftly ran towards the slashers. But the hunter dealt with the undead in an instant. Having finished the cleanup, he asked what to do with the homeowner. He suggested the girl behead him since the transformation into a zombie was almost complete, but she told him not to rush. It turned out that Kim had suppressed his transformation after dealing with all the enemies. The girl wanted to turn him into a slasher and then sell him for a high price. June leaned down and looked at him. The hero's eyes were still open, indicating that he was still conscious. June asked if he could hear her, and Kim raised his eyes and looked at her. She asked if he wanted to live, but our hero had almost given up, as he was gradually turning into a zombie. June revealed who they were, and then she revealed that she was the same girl from the special operation, and told him that only those who managed to destroy over 100 zombies could become a slasher. After these words, June pulled out a syringe with medicine. She could give it to him, but only under one condition. Our hero had to work off the medicine by working as a slasher. June asked once again if he wanted to live. Kim shouted the word live, and the girl injected the medicine into him. She couldn't leave him behind. After the injection, Kim collapsed to the ground, but it turned out that there was too much poison in him. They had the idea of injecting him with another dose of medicine, but it cost 500 billion won. Even despite the high cost, they still wanted to save him. The decision was made to administer another antidote. Our hero opened his eyes and then screamed in horror. Kim realized that he was in the car with the driver, and asked who was driving, and where they were. The man asked the hero how much he remembered, and Kim began to remember. He remembered participating in the show, destroying zombies there, and then buying a house, and then he remembered how he got infected and turned into a zombie. Kim started feeling himself, thinking that he had become a zombie. But when he looked at the reflection on the tablet in the chair, he realized that he was still human. The driver asked if Kim remembered that silver-haired girl. At first, the hero didn't understand what he was talking about, and then he started recalling her, how she asked if he wanted to live. Kim realized that it was this girl who was in the gas mask during that special operation. The driver asked him to touch the tablet and watch the recorded video. There would be answers to his questions. Meanwhile, the driver would focus on driving because they were passing through an area with a lot of zombies. The car was shaking terribly, and our hero managed to turn on the recording on the tablet somehow. The recording showed June. She greeted him and said that she was currently an instructor. Kim didn't understand anything from her words. The girl repeated that she was an instructor for the slasher team. She simultaneously wrote the word slasher on the board. She explained that slashers were people who worked with zombies. They cleared territories, searched for lost items, destroyed zombies, and much more. Then she explained the reason why slashers were needed if there were soldiers, because the government was stingy. During the zombie apocalypse, a huge amount of resources went into producing ammunition and arming soldiers. But over time, they ran out of those very ammunition and weapons. Since there weren't enough supplies to destroy zombies that breached the wall, the government decided to organize this show to cut down on food expenses. She then said that slashers were students who worked off their enormous debts to the government. Kim didn't understand what June was talking about. June explained that the hero owed a huge sum of money. He was horrified when he heard that. The girl suddenly hit the board, and it formed a dent with cracks. If Kim had said that he didn't owe anything, he would have had a hard time. He had to pay for the medicine that turned him back into a human. The price of this medicine was 1,000,000 times higher than usual because it was developed using a secret method. The price for it was 500 billion won for one vial. June started calculating something, and in the end, the hero had to pay her 115 trillion. Until he paid, he would remain in the slasher team. After that, the recording turned off. Kim was shocked by what he saw. The hero told Mr. Choi to stop the car, and he got out. But as soon as he looked out the window, he saw a crowd of zombies heading straight towards them. Mr. Choi explained his mission. The hero had to go deeper into the street and retrieve a hard drive. The man wouldn't help Kim. He told him to take the radio with a note and his weapon. If Kim wanted to return to Busan, he had to do as instructed. The hero got dressed, took everything necessary, and headed out to eliminate the zombies and retrieve the disc. Earlier, before all of this, it was shown that Kim hated zombies, so he hid behind the wall. But above all, he despised being poor, so the hero ventured beyond the wall to exterminate the zombies. The hero, wielding his sharp shovel, started leaping over the heads of the dead, gradually making his way down the street. But suddenly, one of the zombies grabbed Kim's leg. As soon as the hero saw that, he struck the zombie with his other free leg, sending it flying. He kept hitting them relentlessly until he had destroyed them all. Above, a drone observed the scene. It had a camera that displayed the footage on June's computer screen. She sat in her office, sipping a glass of wine, watching the events unfold. She asked Mr. Choi to create a promotional video based on the footage. Then she raised her glass to toast the successful debut of the rookie. Our hero continued smashing the zombies, amazed at how a person could repay a 5 trillion debt. First the zombies, then poverty, followed by the government, and now the debt. Kim was incredibly angry. To cope with his feelings, he only had one option: to unleash his frustration on the zombies. The hero realized that repaying the debt wouldn't be so easy. He would have to be June's slave for the rest of his life. He imagined her sitting on a throne, holding him in chains. He thought he needed to find a psycho who would agree to eliminate June, and then he imagined how he would take her out. Kim pulled out his radio and looked at the sticker on it, which indicated a house, floor, and apartment number. He was already displeased with everything, but he wanted to quickly repay his debt. While scattering more zombies along his path, he reached the designated building entrance. Mr. Choi controlled the drone and looked at his laptop. He saw a wonderful shot for the video and wanted to record it. Then he took off his glasses and daydreamed about becoming as strong as guys like Kim. He took out his phone and looked at a photo of his daughter. Choi wanted to be strong to protect her. But then something flew into his car. Choi quickly reacted and took out an axe. As soon as he turned around, he saw a piece of flesh lying on the seat. He picked it up and went outside, placing the piece on the car's hood. The meat was neatly sliced, as if it had been done recently. It didn't look like zombie-cut meat at all. It was definitely the work of human hands. But then he saw someone climbing onto the roof, and then a phone with a timer fell out of the meat. When the timer reached 0, the phone started beeping, and at the sound, the zombies gathered around. Choi realized it was a trap. At the same moment, Kim also understood the same. He stood in front of a warehouse with hard drives, unsure where to find what he needed. The hero became frustrated and wanted to give up since he didn't understand how he was supposed to find anything there. After half an hour, he took everything he deemed necessary, dragging bags of hard drives behind him. Kim managed to grab his radio and announced that he was heading back to the drop-off point. But Choi didn't respond. He lay next to the car, surrounded by the remains of the monsters he had destroyed. At an inappropriate moment, Kim mentioned that he had taken the hard drives. It was precisely at that moment that the person who had set the trap for Choi approached the car. Now the villain understood why they had come here. Sanchul took out a fresh piece of meat from his bag, and then another phone, with a 1-minute timer. Sanchul set up the same contraption as before. It turned out that Sanchul used to be a slasher himself. He used to kill. We are shown how Sankal prepares for attacks. He steals phones from electronic stores and puts them in his bag. At the factory, he cuts fresh meat. After showering, he puts on a protective suit. Then he douses himself with a special liquid to mask his scent. By eliminating his scent, he conceals his presence. Our hero fusses with the meat, trying to understand why it makes noise. But without realizing how long he stood there, all the zombies have already pounced on him. Sankal sits behind a rock and chuckles, realizing that he has taken down another slasher. He thought that in such a situation, everything was already over for Kim. After all, not even a Class A slasher could handle this. The man was about to get rid of the zombies to claim our hero's discoveries. Then Sankal heard something strange, and with horror, he turned around and saw Kim scattering all the undead in different directions. Kim was very angry. Sankal thought he had gone crazy. He couldn't believe what had just happened. Meanwhile, Our hero complained that the zombies had dirted his clothes. Kim quickly dealt with the remaining zombies. Sandcall noticed that Kim was not the same as a few minutes ago. He was scared of him. Sitting behind the rock, the man calmed himself down and prepared a new trap. As soon as he stood up and swung, our hero immediately saw him. They stood close to each other with no one in between. In panic, Sandcall threw the meat at the hero, and it hit him in the face again. As expected, the zombies gathered again at the loud sound of the phone. This infuriated Kim. He warned him that when he got free, he would definitely finish off Sandcall. While pieces of meat were falling from the sky, our hero, with his incredible strength, turned the zombies into minced meat. While Sandcall threw his bait, Kim became faster and stronger, and suddenly, both the meat and the phones ran out. In the bag, there was only one disposable trap left. He planned to throw it and escape, but suddenly, a severed zombie head flew towards him. Sandcall looked at Kim, and he asked him angrily where he was going. After all, he hadn't settled the score with him yet. The slasher exterminator started running away. He ran for a long time until he reached Mirakyungju. Behind him was an angry and exhausted Kim. He realized that Sandcall was killing slashers. Kim won't forgive him. He decided that Call should pay for it with his own life. Suddenly, Sandcall reached into his bag and tried to take something out. Kim thought it was a gun, and he threw a shovel right into the scoundrel's shoulder. He fell to the ground from the force of the blow. Then, he took out a remote control and pressed a button. And throughout the amusement park, a recording played. "Welcome to Mirakyungju. Let's create pleasant memories together." This recording played many times. Sandcall revealed his plan. If a phone could summon many zombies, then there would be even more of them in the amusement park. The population of Kyungju was 260,000, and now they could all come running here. Suddenly, someone approached them. An unknown person asked who turned on the speakers. Both of them noticed, but they said nothing. Then the old man asked again, who turned on the speakers. Kim couldn't understand who this old man was and why he was here. The old man repeated his question. It infuriated him. He took out his fishing rod, and with a single swing, he shattered the columns with a sound. Sandcall and Kim were astonished by the old man's actions. The grandfather turned out to be a Class A slasher. His name is Kimchi Sam, and he had over 112,700 kills to his name. And suddenly, our hero hesitantly said that he was the one who orchestrated it all. Earlier, the old man was sitting in June's office. She invited him and asked him to catch the rookie slasher, namely Kim. Since June lost contact with him, it's possible that he encountered a mutant, or a slasher hunter. The girl said she called a helicopter, and it would arrive at the helipad in 30 minutes. In the meantime, the secretary placed the case in front of the man. He opened it, and saw money inside. There were 500 billion won in the case. But suddenly the old man closed it, and returned it, saying it was unnecessary. He asked for something else, namely medicine. But after those words, something came over June. She stood up and started shouting that she wouldn't give him the medicine because it was worth 300 billion won. Sipping his tea, the old man calmly asked where the target was. He handed her a receipt. June took it in her hands and saw the amount of 200 billion won. At the same time, Chi-Sam offered June a deal. He would give her 200 billion and save her toy, and in return, she would give him the medicine. In the end, she agreed. The old man looked at the hero and assessed his condition. The young man's body looked strong. There was fire in his eyes, and the rough skin of his hands proved that he had been through a lot. Soon, Kim figured out who sent the old man after him. He asked the grandfather who he was, to which he replied to call him a mentor. But despite all this, some zombies still heard the loud noises and rushed here. Kim, while running away, told them to deal with the monsters first. But then Chi-Sam hit him on the head with a float. Our hero considered the old man abnormal. Then Chi-Sam turned his face towards the zombies and asked him a question. He asked what the connection was between zombie destruction and fishing. The mentor put a huge fish as bait on his fishing rod, and swinging, he threw it into the crowd of the undead. While he was casting his line, he asked what it takes to catch a good fish. But the hero didn't understand what the old man was talking about. Kim warned him that the zombies were behind them, and after the mentor finished his preparation, he ordered the hero to crouch. Chi-Sam pulled the fishing rod, and the line tightened. As instructed, Kim crouched down, and as soon as the teacher jerked the fishing rod, all the zombies around were sliced in half. Zombie bodies fell to the ground. Kim stood up and asked how many fish Chi-Sam could catch at once. With a 30-meter line, the old man could destroy about 1,000 zombies at once. The hero was amazed by the old man's strength, and suddenly, behind himself, Kim heard laughter. The guys turned around and saw a huge mutant. This mutant turned out to be Sandcall. Kim thought the old man accidentally hit Sandcall with the fishing rod, and he turned into a zombie. But Chi-Sam explained to the young man that it wasn't a zombie but a mutant. And even after Sandcall turned into a mutant, he was still classified as Class C. After those words, the mutant brutally hit Teacher Kim. He sent him flying into the wall. Then the mutant turned to Kim and said that he hates people like him. While the mutant Sandcall was conscious, tears in his eyes, he said he would destroy Kim. The hero took up his armor and provoked the mutant to make a swing and strike. But just as he raised his hand and was about to strike Kim, suddenly, the hero saw the fishing line tighten. An old man sitting on the ground held the mutant on a hook. Then he said he remembered who the mutant used to be. The monster already turned towards the mentor with one hand. The old man said that Sandcall was a cowardly child who always wore a protective suit. And the old man began to tell the story of Sandcall. He said that he never fought zombies. On missions, he stole anything that was poorly guarded while other slashers bought time. And since that wasn't enough for him, he became a slasher hunter. The monster was very angry with the old man. He swung to destroy him. But just as Chi-Sam pulled the fishing line, the mutant's body was sliced in two. Then Chi-Sam stood up, grabbed his bag, and then he said that June was waiting for him. Once the mentor was sitting fishing and catching fish. After he caught a healthy fish, suddenly his phone rang. He took out his phone and saw that his daughter-in-law was calling. He casually answered the phone and asked how she was doing. But suddenly, she spoke to him with a frightened voice. The old man immediately asked what had happened to her. The girl sat terrified near the wall, and cosmetics were scattered around her. She said that Ji-sun had bitten her father. He lost a lot of blood, and foam came out of his mouth. The old man asked her to repeat it slowly, but she was terribly frightened. 911 wasn't answering, and she didn't know what to do. The girl locked herself in the bedroom, but Ji-sun kept pounding on the door. After these words, the old man dropped everything and ran to save his daughter. When he was about to hang up the phone, he saw a message on the phone about a pandemic. The helicopter had already landed on the Aqua City roof. Inside the helicopter, the pilot said it was an honor to meet the grandfather in person. The grandfather took off his headphones, and they entered the building. In the elevator, Kim asked the old man's story. The old man replied that he was just like him, a slasher who destroys zombies and earns money. Then Kim asked how he could become like his grandfather, to which the old man said it was a useless question. Everyone has lost something. And then the mentor started asking questions. He asked what Kim had lost. Our hero sadly replied, parents, childhood, friends, brother. Chi-Sam told him to think about it, and then asked what he would want to get back first. Without hesitation, the hero answered, home. After all, in the fondest memories, he had a home. When they arrived at the desired floor and entered the office, June said she had mortgaged the house. He was no longer its owner. Emotions overwhelmed the hero. He asked why she did it, and then she began to count his entire debt, namely 500 billion for treatment, additional expenses for sending a Class A slasher, the cost of insurance for the taxi driver who died fulfilling his request, additional expenses for helicopter evacuation. In total, June calculated over 800 billion. And in the end, the hero couldn't recover the hard drive containing coins or cryptocurrency. And then they started arguing. Kim asked June to give him the keys to his house, but June became interested in. And suddenly our hero swung, but suddenly he was stopped by the grandfather. Almost reaching out to the fishing rod, he said that the girl was right. After a short conversation with the old man, Kim finally regained his composure. And then he said that one day he would be able to pay off all his debts, and then his house too. The girl stuck out her tongue and told him not to die. Because of him, she was in debt. Then she sat on the table and took out a syringe with an antidote. June threw it to the old man and said that there would be no more deals like that. The grandfather caught the syringe and thanked her. But as soon as the old man turned away, June asked if he could keep Kim with him. After all, he still didn't know the world. In the end, our hero made a gesture. But June forgot to mention something. She asked the old man to bring their hero to the slasher party. The guys left the office, and the grandfather said goodbye. The hero would live with him until he could get his house back. The slashers walked up the street. Behind them, there was the sea and the mountains. After a long time, they arrived at Chisama's house. The old man said that the staircase was barely visible as the sun was setting. They entered the open gate of the house, and the mentor immediately said that the hero needed to wash up, as he smelled like a zombie. The old man threw the weapon case onto the couch and went into the house to fetch water. The house turned out to be completely different from what Kim had imagined. They washed up outside. Later, the hero did the laundry and hung it out to dry. They had their meal, and then they went to sleep, the two of them sleeping on the same mattress. Before sleep, the hero asked how much the old man had earned from hunting. He was curious about where all the money went. He thought not all of the funds went into that old and rundown house without a toilet and with an outdoor faucet. The grandfather, taking off his blanket, said that all the slashers were addicted to something. The old man stood up and decided to show what he had spent his savings on. There was a lock in the cabinet in front of the mattress. The old man took the key from his neck and opened the cabinet. Kim stood up to get a better view. There were photographs of people in the cabinet, and syringes with the antidote hung next to them. Kim asked about the pictures next to the syringes. They were the old man's family. He planned to go to Seoul and turn his family back into humans. Our hero wanted to ask how the old man planned to get through 10 million zombies in Seoul. But on the way there were even more zombies. But even if he succeeds, and all the people dear to him get the medicine, they still won't become humans. Kim didn't understand the meaning of it all. The hero remembered his older brother who wanted to buy a house to meet their parents, but they would never come back. And Kim left the four walls to fulfill his brother's dream. None of them were in their right mind. After these thoughts, Kim said it was time to sleep. In the morning, the hero sat on the couch and looked at the sea. The old man caught his attention as he came out in a suit. Kim said it was a bit fancy for this occasion. They left the house and descended the stairs to the road. When they descended, their conversation turned to Kim's attire, as he was not dressed formally. The slashers descended, and a black car approached them. The driver stepped out of the car and opened the doors for his master. Kim wanted to sit together with the old man, but his personal driver didn't allow him to. Kim started raging about it, and the driver took his hand and said that his operator would arrive soon. He let go of the hero's hand and told him to be more welcoming. Chan Ki-cho was Mr. Chi-sam's personal driver. He belonged to Class A. The car drove away and a girl on a scooter arrived in its place. It turned out to be his operator who controls his robot. Her name is Minori. Kim asked what an operator means. The girl explained to the hero that operators are people who deal with weapons, transportation, finances, and other things. They assist slashers in the finer details of their work. When the secretary helped June get ready for the party, she asked her a question. Since Kim was under her control, she asked why June hired another operator. She said that Minori was reliable because she didn't have the same scent as June. She smelled of confidence. Meanwhile, near the largest five-star hotel in Howdy, there was hustle and bustle. People in suits were preparing for the arrival of the slashers. They laid out the red carpet and carried things in boxes. And then they were informed that the guests had already arrived. Guards formed a corridor near the carpet and waited for the guests. Then the slashers stepped onto the carpet and entered the hotel. The first one is named Chan Dai-kal, with over 100,000 zombie eliminations to his credit. Behind him was a Chun Sik, who destroyed over 180,000 zombies. Next was a tall and handsome blonde named Pek Baek-hen, who didn't eliminate a single zombie. The girl with a guitar case following them was named Lee Cho-rong. She had over 110,000 undead eliminations to her credit. Behind her was Lim, who belonged to the Special Defense Department of the temporary government. He had over 109,000 zombie eliminations to his credit. Behind him walked a very old man named Jagal Chida, who eliminated 100,000 corpses. And finally, there was Chi-sam, with 113,000 corpses destroyed to his credit. They were greeted and the doors were opened. The action transports us to the five-star hotel, the beach, where luxury and opulence reigned supreme. Our hero rode up to the main entrance on a motorcycle, where they were greeted by a vigilant security guard. The guard inquired about their identity, asking if they were slashers or VIPs. The girl introduced herself as the operator of Slasher Mina Ari, and her companion Siamayan shoveled the slasher, announcing their arrival at the hotel. The guard began checking the list, but their names were not on it, causing a sense of concern. The guard inquired about our hero's slasher class, which infuriated him. He felt like a piece of meat being categorized based on quality. Upon hearing that our hero belonged to Class C, the guard made it clear that such individuals were not allowed at the event. Furthermore, entry without VIP invitations was also restricted. Behind them, a refined female voice spoke up. By VIP individuals, do you mean someone like me? Asked the elegant lady in her beautiful, expensive black dress. This lady held a very high position and had great influence in elite circles, she ordered our hero to be let in because she invited him. The guard dared not object, and this wealthy woman had selfish plans for Siamayan. The invited guests entered the building on the red carpet with the wealthy lady who guided them. The lady said that if her guests encountered any similar problems, they should mention her name and the problems would be solved. But at the same time, the lady made it clear that our hero would obey her. Until the hero repaid his debt, he would do whatever this lady commanded. This angered and infuriated the hero, but he was forced to obey for now. A social party was taking place in the banquet hall. Expensive dishes were on the tables. Waiters were serving expensive champagne. The guests engaged in social conversations. Everyone in the room had killed a minimum of 30,000 zombies in their time. Despite this, our hero still looked upon the guests with disdain. Among the guests were not only slashers but also high-class operators who came to recruit some of the slashers and hire them for work. There were also VIPs in the room who sponsored both the slashers and their operators by giving them orders. All the guests came here for one thing: to do business and make a profit. Some deals could earn them enormous sums of money, tens or even hundreds of billions. Despite the terrifying zombie situation in the world, this business was still growing and thriving. But all of this was alien to our hero at the moment. Although his agent insisted that he should be proud to be here and make his debut as a professional in such circles, that our hero would have to conduct himself according to the norms of this circle, even if he didn't like something. Siamayan took a glass of sparkling champagne, wanting to relieve some stress, and then he began to tell the story of his past. Our hero had never been in elite circles before. He spent his childhood in a refugee camp where the conditions for survival were terrible. His stomach grew accustomed to digesting anything since childhood. Sometimes, he had to fight rats for scraps from trash bins just to survive. The main reason for our hero's hatred towards the rich was that these moneybags knew about the situation. They knew how people survived in the camps but pretended not to notice. One VIP heard his story and paid attention to him. The operator whispered to the slasher that this man was so wealthy and influential that he was a VIP among VIPs. The operator eagerly joined the conversation, realizing that a contract with this wealthy man promised enormous profits. The wealthy man told the hero what he needed to do and explained the task he had for him. It turned out that in order to conduct his business and work with securities, he needed his wife's fingerprint, who was in a bomb shelter. However, he considered his wife unnecessary, and bringing her finger would be sufficient. Upon hearing this proposal, our hero didn't say a word, turned around, and left, shocking both his operator and the wealthy man, who clearly wasn't accustomed to being refused. Lost in thought, he continued walking and bumped shoulders with a burly guy. This guy had already heard rumors about our hero, and he seemed to be consumed by envy. In a fit of anger, he grabbed our hero by the collar, seemingly planning to start a fight. But someone behind him intervened, placing a hand on his shoulder. A green-haired guy told the burly man to calm down, well aware that his actions were fueled by envy. Embracing our hero, the green-haired guy led him further through the hall, away from the aggressive thug. This was Snake, a Class B slasher. He informed the newcomer that he was currently receiving a lot of attention, and not everyone might like that. But at that moment, the show began. A host dressed in a suit and tie took the stage, starting to warm up the crowd. The host began his program as if it were a celebration, but the wealthy attendees were here for business, not merriment. Our rookie didn't understand what kind of show awaited him, but Snake gradually explained what would happen on stage. An auction was about to begin, but a very unusual one. They would be auctioning off not objects, paintings, or works of art, but what? They brought out bound zombies with gags in their mouths and wearing swimsuits. It was later revealed that they were former actresses and celebrities, until they became zombies. At some point, they were stunningly beautiful and incredibly talented. But little remained of that now. Yes, their figures remained attractive, and their breasts were large, but their eyes were cloudy with a lifeless gaze. Their decaying skin cracked and looked horrifying. The host announced that these zombie celebrities would be sold at the auction, starting at a staggering sum of 5 billion. It seemed that Snake had already witnessed similar events, and was unfazed by it. However, our hero was left speechless from the shock of what he saw. He abruptly turned around and left. Snake shouted something after him, but the hero didn't listen. He wanted to understand what kind of nonsense was happening here. There was a chicken on the table, and the hero took out a sharp cleaver and headed towards the stage. He walked confidently, determined. His operator realized that what was about to happen could destroy their careers and tried to call out to our hero. But it was too late. the hero stepped onto the stage. The crowd was shocked, and the host tried to send him back to the audience. However, with a single decisive motion, our hero severed the head of the former celebrity who was now a zombie. Emotions ran high in the audience. Some enjoyed the spectacle, while others were outraged, but no one remained indifferent. The host was so taken aback by what happened that he lost his voice and even dropped his microphone. In a fit of rage and indignation, the hero took the microphone and began addressing the audience. He was willing to tolerate their excess and hypocrisy, as everyone treated him as inferior due to his lower social class, but he couldn't tolerate such perverted trading of zombies. Our hero was outraged by what was happening and accused those present of it. He believed they were killing zombies for their own survival, professionally, yet they had turned it into some perverted entertainment. His partner tried her best to calm down our hero before he said even more, but it was too late. His speech was interrupted by a huge guy from the crowd. He said that there was nothing wrong with them earning a living from their professional craft, and the guy on stage was trying to lecture everyone while his hands were still stained with the blood of the killed zombies. He claimed that our hero was just like them but was being hypocritical. In the hall, silence hung in the air as the enormous thug stared at the stage with a cold, ruthless gaze, awaiting a response. The brute's intimidating appearance instilled fear, and the scar across his face spoke of countless battles and turmoil, indicating that he had no fear whatsoever. Gradually losing his patience, the thug repeated his question. He wanted to hear what was so condemnable about their business of zombie extermination, and what was shameful about profiting from it. Let's talk about this man, if he can be called that, as he had barely any human qualities left and resembled a monster to some extent. He was an A-class slasher known as Big Brother, the leader of an association that included several other top-class slashers. But killing zombies wasn't his only endeavor. He was also involved in entrepreneurship and was entangled in various schemes. Once, a very interesting article was published in a newspaper, revealing the activities of Big Brother, all his machinations and illegal deals. The article directly referred to him as a gangster. Naturally, Big Brother learned about this article and was, to put it mildly, displeased with its content. Besides damaging the leader's reputation, it directly affected the company's affairs, and the tarnished reputation had a financial impact on the overall business. An article in a newspaper caused significant damage to his business, amounting to a staggering sum of 1.2 trillion won. This enraged even such a cold-blooded individual. Money was lost, reputation was tarnished, and all Big Brother wanted was to seek revenge against the author. Giving orders to find and capture the article's author, he waited for them to be brought to a secluded place in one of the city's docks. He wanted to personally exact vengeance, and arrived at the location where the journalist had been taken. The journalist sat tied to a chair with a gagged mouth, awaiting his fate. It was evident that Big Brother's henchmen had already worked over the journalist quite a bit, as his entire body was covered in blood, scratches, and bruises. As soon as the journalist's mouth was freed from the gag, he shouted in rage at Big Brother. He yelled that one couldn't simply take and kill a journalist, as it wouldn't be so easily dismissed. Big Brother, unaffected by the journalist's screams, calmly sat on a chair opposite him and said he had no intention of killing him. After all, he had prepared a different fate for him. The thug took out a syringe filled with dark liquid and declared that the journalist would live, but in a different form. The journalist smiled hysterically. He already realized his end was near, and it was unlikely he would be released just like that. However, he took solace in the fact that his article was indeed truthful, and he was facing the real deal, a gangster whose activities were entirely tied to the criminal world. Big Brother grabbed the unfortunate journalist by the hair and injected the contents of the syringe into his neck. The syringe contained nothing but black blood, which instantly spread through the victim's veins, disseminating a lethal infection throughout his body. The gang leader, with a stone-cold expression, continued that this was not the end. The worst was yet to come for the journalist, as he had prepared something else for him. The container's doors swung open, revealing the journalist's wife and daughter standing helplessly in the arms of the thugs, looking at the author of the ill-fated article with horror. Pain, tears, and terror froze in their eyes. The journalist gazed upon his family with sorrow, knowing what was about to happen. His mind struggled to fight the infection, but it was already too late. In despair, he screamed and begged to be killed before he fully transformed into a zombie and lost control over himself. But the thugs had other plans. Heartlessly, they threw his family into his clutches, offering them as a meal There could be no crime more terrifying and merciless, yet, they were capable of such acts. Closing the container's doors behind them, the thugs left. Their leader ordered to open the container the next day and take photographs of what was inside. They would then send the photos to the editorial office, warning them that they could suffer the same fate if they didn't rectify the consequences of their article. Well, knowing the inhuman scum standing before our protagonist, let's return to the banquet hall, where the thug was already standing next to the stage, piercing the newcomer who had stepped onto it with his gaze. On Big Brother's path, the operator of the main protagonist stepped in, trying to reason with the ruthless thug. She wanted to prevent the imminent brawl, but by standing in his way, she only received a powerful slap that sent her flying into the wall, hitting her head hard. No one or nothing could stop the brute at the moment. He was like a tank, eager to extract an answer from the newcomer to his question. Our hero, driven by youthful idealism, began talking about high moral values, emphasizing that they should surpass any materialistic goals and that fighting zombies was for the survival of humanity, not for mere gain. In the adrenaline rush, he swung his machete, which had just severed the heads of the zombie stars. Despite putting all his strength into the strike, Big Brother effortlessly caught the machete with 2 fingers, calmly and emotionlessly. Using the same 2 fingers, he simply broke the machete in the hero's hands. And then it was his turn. Big Brother delivered a powerful blow to our hero, who could only manage to block it with his hands. It's unknown if Big Brother struck with full force, but the impact was enough to break both of the hero's arms, shattering his defense. Delivering several more strikes, Big Brother turned the young man into a motionless, bloodied mess, unable to even stand. Next to the thug was always his treasurer, who kept track of everything and calculated the damages. Big Brother ordered him to assess how much harm the youth had caused to his wallet. After calculating all the losses, the treasurer counted an astronomical sum of 62 billion won. While the bandits were tallying up the damage, our hero, in despair, sank his teeth into the boss's leg. It didn't cause much damage, rather further humiliated the hero, and the thug calmly and methodically finished him off. Realizing that the newcomer would unlikely be able to compensate for all the damages, he decided to finish him off and show the audience that such impudent acts would be punished to the fullest extent. But at that moment, a rope fastened around Big Brother's neck thrown by a gray-bearded man in a suit. Big Brother was slightly surprised by who dared to interfere and was about to confront the bearded man. However, it wasn't the initiative of the gray-bearded man. He was a hired worker of the VIP lady we already know, who had her own plans for the fallen novice. With a Hollywood smile on her face, she informed the thug that the young man was hers, and if Big Brother killed him, he would have to reimburse her debt amounting to 800 billion won. Such an astronomical sum was unbelievable even for Big Brother. Therefore, naturally, he hesitated to get involved in this matter and left the young man alive. Yes, Siamayan was needed alive by this lady. She had her own plans for him, so she saved him from certain death, and later, we will find out why exactly she needed this Class C newcomer. Big Brother was very surprised by where such a huge amount came from. He couldn't believe that this newcomer could be worth so much, and how could he be associated with such money? The lady in black was confident and didn't flinch even when standing in front of such a massive man who was capable of anything. She confirmed that Xiao really owed her that amount, and if needed, she was ready to provide evidence to support it. She had the necessary folder with documents with her. She handed it to the big guy, who took it with curiosity. Opening the documents, he started reading, and they indeed mentioned the debt amount that the lady had stated, 800 billion won. The lady suggested to the big guy that they should still finish off our hero, then the debt would transfer to Big Brother. She said it suited her because it would allow her to get her money much faster. She also sarcastically asked if Big Brother had that kind of money. This truly touched him and angered him to the point where veins bulged on his face. It was difficult to surprise or provoke him, but questions that challenged his dignity, especially those regarding money, truly bothered him. In a fit of anger, he turned around and headed back to Shao's body. Despite the huge loss he would incur for this transgression, he still intended to kill the boy because his male ego had been offended. Everyone froze, waiting to see what would happen, but the lady in black remained calm. She knew that this enormous man loved money above all else, and he wouldn't simply squander such a large sum just to satisfy his pride. The leader of the gangsters faced a difficult choice. On one hand, a crowd of people from the elite society looked at him, The newcomer had challenged the big guy with his actions and essentially humiliated him in front of the elite. It was worth publicly punishing the arrogant youngster to show everyone else that one shouldn't mess with Big Brother. But on the other hand, it would be extremely foolish to lose 800 billion won just like that. Therefore, the big guy let go of the lifeless body of the young zombie killer and decided not to kill him. However, he still desired retribution. He felt a sense of humiliation and wanted to rid himself of that feeling. He was extremely angry at the lady in black because he found himself in such a degrading situation because of her. But it was definitely unwise to provoke this lady. She was wealthier and more influential than him, and crossing her could cost him his life. The crowd of guards immediately aimed their weapons at him, and made it clear that any unnecessary movement would result in his immediate demise. Understanding the hopelessness of the situation and calming his emotions, the big guy let the lady go but quietly told her that when his corporation became richer and more influential, he would come back for her and finish her off. Taking his entourage, Big Brother turned around and left, keeping 800 billion won but losing his dignity and reputation. The lady in black ordered her men to pick up Shaol and Minari and take them to the hospital as soon as possible. She would cover all the expenses to avoid further scandal. There was no sense or desire to stay in this place any longer, so the lady, with her entourage, also left the event. In the hospital, Shaol had enough time to reflect on everything that had happened and the meaning behind it. He also pondered the current state of the world. Minari had already received medical attention, and she was even capable of taking care of Shaol, who was in much worse condition. Minari didn't condemn her partner. She was also disgusted by the way the world worked. On one of these auctions, she witnessed her loved one being sold, or rather, what remained of that person. Our hero recovered incredibly quickly, and his determination didn't allow him to lie in the hospital for long. He was ready to go to work right now. His operator was delighted to hear that Shaol was eager to return to work as soon as possible, and promised to give him an assignment the following week. But when he arrived at the office to meet his boss, she was shocked to discover that there were no assignments at all. The company's affairs had suddenly taken a downturn. Big Brother had spread rumors everywhere after what had happened, and clients abruptly refused to give any work to Shaol. Now the reputation and existence of the company were under serious threat. In addition to that, Big Brother reduced the commission to increase demand for his services. It was clear that he had set a goal to destroy his more influential competitor, first financially, and then physically.